to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Cody Valdez, the Director of Athletics at Tooele High School. Welcome to the podcast, Cody.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time and inviting me to participate in this today.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our international audience where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
All right. I was born and raised in Tooele, which is where I am currently employed. And I went to school here, participated in many different sports while I was here at Tooele High School, from wrestling, golf, track and field, as well as involved in many different activities. While I was a student at Tooele High School here, I was involved in student government yearbook. At the time, it was called VICA. It's currently called Skills USA. It's a vocational club, career and technical education club. So I was very involved all throughout high school. After I graduated, I attended Utah State University, and I originally pursued a degree in mechanical engineering. After a year of studying there, I went on a mission, served a mission for 2 years in England, and came back and decided mechanical engineering isn't what I wanted to do. And so I was able to kind of look around, and I settled on engineering education. I've always wanted to be a teacher. Both my parents were in education, and so something that was always kind of in the back of my mind. And when I found that opportunity, it was something that I jumped on and continue to pursue my degree in engineering technology education, and also majoring, kind of did a dual major with that, and then also computer aided drafting and design, both from Utah State University. I graduated in 2006 and started teaching at a middle school up in Cache County at Spring Creek Middle School, and worked there for about 2 years, and then had an opportunity, got a phone call from the principal here at the time that knew that there was a drafting position, and that was something that I was definitely interested in. That position came open, and applied and became the drafting, architecture, and engineering teacher here at Tooele High School in 2008. So it was kind of interesting coming back to Tooele High. I love Tooele High School. I love the opportunities I was given here as a student, and then being here as a teacher since then. It was in 2019 when I was at the time coaching wrestling. So I actually began coaching wrestling when I was doing my student teaching at Logan High School with Bo Roundy, who I know was a recent guest that was on this podcast, which is great to see and to hear from him. And to this day, I have a great relationship with Bo, and we'll talk a bit more about him later on as one of my mentors. So I started my coaching career in high school with him. I coached with him for 3 years at Logan High School. And then when I moved back here to Tooele, and when I got the job here, I continued coaching wrestling as well as soccer here at the high school. I did that for many years. In fact, I've coached for 18 years. In 2019, I stepped down from wrestling to pursue a master's degree at Concordia University in Irvine in coaching and athletic administration. At that time, it was something that I was ready to pursue more of the athletic administration side. So I was able to focus on that to receive my master's. While doing that, I was still involved with coaching golf at the time as an assistant coach with the golf program as well. And then this summer was hired as the athletic director. So it's been a long journey, one that when I first graduated high school, never anticipated being an athletic director, but it's definitely something that's been a great opportunity for me and my family to be able to take over that role here at Tooele High School.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing. Let's then go right to your mentors, and you obviously mentioned one of them, Bo Roundy, but let's talk about the mentors in your life that made a difference for you, and talk about that to our audience.
Yeah. There's so many mentors I've had over the years that, it's really hard to begin to narrow down from that long list of mentors. But the ones that really stick out to me include my father. My dad was always my coach growing up. No matter what sport I was involved with, he was always one that was there to help me and to coach my teams, and to whether he was the coach on the sideline or the coach at home. He was always my biggest supporter, along with my mom and my brothers as well. But my dad really set a great example to me of what it means to be an athletic leader, not just a coach. And that is something that is so important to me. Is as coaches, we have the opportunity to be those mentors for our young student athletes. And my dad was definitely one of my biggest mentors. As I mentioned, he was in education, and he was actually athletic director here at Tooele High School. Shortly after I graduated high school, he took the position as athletic director. I've had many long discussions with him about becoming an athletic director. When I decided that's what I wanted to do, went back and got my master's. At the time, spent lots of time working with him, and he was a great mentor to me to help me kind of along the way with that. Another great mentor of mine, as mentioned, is Bo Roundy. I had the pleasure of working with Bo actually for a couple of years before I actually even knew who he was fully. As he was Big Blue at Utah State University, I was involved with a club that worked with with Big Blue, and was helping at half times and different things, and had a great opportunity to kind of work with him without, again, knowing really who he was. I just knew it was Big Blue. When I was assigned to Logan High School for my student teaching, I immediately found out that Bo Roundy was the head wrestling coach, and I knew that was something that I wanted to reach out to him and see if that's something I could help with. And he openly accepted me as an assistant coach, even though I was a college student working on my student teaching, having a young family. He was definitely a mentor to me, and had 3 great years working with him at Logan High School, and just seeing the love and the passion that he had for the young student athletes, and not just those on the wrestling team, but those around the school at Logan High School, was something that had a very large impact on me. Another great mentor to me has been Catham Beer. Catham has been the athletic director here at Tooele High School, I believe, for about 8 years. And he has just recently accepted a position at the district office as our district activities director, which is what opened the door for me to be able to apply to become the athletic director here at Tooele High School. I've seen what he's done as a coach and as a friend over the past 8 years, and seen what he had done in the athletics department here at Tooele High School is something that I hope to carry on many of the great traditions that he has already set forth, and be able to continue to improve the athletics here at Tooele High.
Let me ask you a follow-up. When you were in high school, this dates me, was Paul Dart then the athletic director? Did your
Paul
dad
Dart
take over
was
for
the athletic
Paul?
director at the time. Yep, he's a really close family friend who I associate with a lot with as well. And so, yep, that's who he was, the athletic director at the time.
Let's go with a little bit of a personal question here, Cody. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
This was a really difficult kind of question as I kind of thought about this, and wondering, what I would consider as my biggest failure. And I think I've I listen to this podcast quite a bit, and I think there's a lot of others that kind of have a very similar concept to this, that I don't look at any of maybe the mistakes that I've made in the past and look at them as failures. As leaders in athletics, and as a teacher for many years, all the little mistakes we make are what make us stronger. As long as we have that opportunity to kind of look back and to reflect on those things that may have gone wrong, and to improve ourselves. So while I don't know if I really have a failure, the one thing that I really do feel has been something that really has impacted me over the past couple months as I've taken on this role, is, I mean, for the past 5 years, this has been a goal of mine. And I was heading down to St. George to go watch a girls' soccer playoff game this fall, and I had many people that were going to try and go with me, and it ended up being that I had to travel down to St. George and back by myself. And on that journey, on that trip, I had a lot of time, listened to many different podcasts, including this one on the way down, and had a lot of time to kind of reflect on where my life had taken me at this point. And it really hit me at that moment that this is exactly what I needed to do for me and for my family. Without really knowing that, having this feeling before making this jump into athletic administration was definitely something I needed to continue to improve myself and to challenge myself to become better. After teaching for 18 years, it's sometimes, like I said, without really knowing, I kind of felt like I was maybe in a little bit of a rut. And so kind of my biggest thing is being able to continue to push myself beyond kind of my limits, if you will, and push myself to improve and be better. And this is something that maybe my failure would be something that I didn't do sooner, because it was something that was very important to me throughout my entire life, is being involved with student athletes and being these leaders and mentors for them. It's something that maybe I wish I would have done a little bit sooner.
Thank you for sharing that. Let me ask you a question that I have not asked anyone in over 160 episodes. You would be the first one. I want you to talk about being the recipient, and I want to say it's got to be 2003 or 4, the recipient of the UIAAA scholarship back in its infancy, back when it was only 3 years old.
Yep.
And so you're the first scholarship recipient we've had on the podcast that is now an active athletic administrator. So I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a true honor to be able to say I was one of the first recipients of this scholarship. I did receive that in 2004, and at the time I was nearing the end of my college education. I know there's different stipulations now, but at the time I was able to apply as a college student. But it was something that was able to get me through my final year and a half, 2 years of schooling that was very important to me. At the time, I was married. I didn't have any kids, but I was going to school full time. And being able to receive this scholarship was definitely something that I was able to not have to work near as often. I had a job on campus working in one of the computer labs, and it was just enough to get by. And my wife was working full time as well. But being able to receive that scholarship I was able to focus more on my academics, my education, to be able to continue to finish out both of my degrees that I was working on at Utah State University without the added stress of having to kind of come up with that extra money. It's a honor to be a recipient and to be able to now have that opportunity to work with student athletes and encourage them to apply for the same scholarship. That definitely helped me through school and it enabled me to get the degree that I had worked so hard for.
That is excellent. Thanks so much for sharing. So now I'm going to ask you a question that I've only asked. I want to say you may be the third, you may only be the second. And this one has to do with the fact that you're an athletic director in a Utah high school. Your father was an athletic director, and you're now the athletic director at the school where you attended, where he was the AD. So I want you to share that and talk about some of the joys that's brought in your life.
It is a true honor to be able to say that I am the athletic director here at the high school, the same high school where my dad was the athletic director for many years as well. As I said, my dad has been one of the biggest mentors in my life. And it was shortly after I graduated high school that he had the opportunity, when Coach Paul Dart was stepping down as the athletic director. And I remember as I was on my mission at the time, when I had received a letter from my parents and had mentioned that he was taking over that new role. And I know it was a really hard decision for him, because I had a younger brother who was still in school, and my dad had coached both myself and my older brother in wrestling. And so it was a hard decision for him to step down as a wrestling coach to pursue this new career path. And I look back at my experience, and this is very, very similar with myself, as I was the head wrestling coach at Tooele High School at the time when I decided to go back and get my master's degree. So it wasn't directly to, going into athletic administration, but it was to pursue my master's degree. And it was a big decision for my family as well. I had many long conversations with both my parents. My dad was definitely an influence to help me to understand, some of the ins and outs of being an AD and then kind of what it entailed. Obviously, as he has been retired many years as well, times have changed and there's big differences, and he acknowledges that a lot as we have conversations weekly about athletics here at Tooele High School and then many different things. And it's great because he often will ask me, what do I do on a daily basis, and to see how different it is from him when he was the AD here. And it's just kind of fun having those conversations with him.
Excellent. And I'm going to go with the third question that I don't normally ask. I want you to talk, mostly for my benefit, talk about the schools in your region, because when I first worked at Jordan High, this is 1979, long before you were born, we had a league that included Jordan, Murray, Tooele, Judge, Uinta, and probably somebody else I'm not thinking about, but I think now probably none of those schools are in your league, if I'm right.
But a lot of those schools actually, we just this year, over the past couple of years, I guess really, but this year we are in the same region as a lot of those schools, being in a region with Murray and Jordan this year, Hillcrest, Park City, ourselves. There is a lot of those rivalries that I remember growing up. The biggest one for me that I always remember was Murray High School. I can remember always competing against Murray, and there was always a little extra kind of fight in those games against Murray for whatever reason. Murray was one of our big rivals, and now with that rival, with Tooele being more Stansbury, with them being in our region as well, I can remember a lot of those times in high school that I had those rivalries with Murray High School.
How is that going to change once the new school, and that's still 2 years away, year and a half away? Once that new school, how's that going to affect your population, the Stansbury population? Will it affect Grantsville at all? Are they going to stick all four of you in the league as they move Grantsville up? I'm not sure how that's going to work.
I think there's a lot of discussion still with that. The school is currently scheduled to open in 2025, so in 2 school years, about a year and a half from now. I know there's a lot of discussion about Tooele, Stansbury, Grantsville, and the new school, Desert Peak High School. It'd be great to have them all in the same region. As far as having some of those rivalries, also, the travel not being as far and distant with some of those, it would be a nice thing to be able to have. But they're currently working with our boundaries. In fact, there's committees going right now, and they just put out a survey to our community, asking about a bunch of different ideas and getting their feedback and their input on the boundary changes and how that is going to affect all the current 3 schools when Desert Peak comes on board. So there's definitely going to be a lot of change, not only just because of having the new school, but also losing enrollment and kind of dividing up the demographic of the different schools. Will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Fascinating. Let's go to a couple of weeks ago. By the time this airs, it'll probably be a month from when we're talking. I want you to talk about the national conference in Orlando. I understand it was your first, and I'm always interested in people's first impressions of the national conference. And I want you to talk about the importance, if people can get there, because I understand sometimes you have trouble with your district, but generally, once we get people to the national conference, they always want to go back. Now, whether they can get there, that's with the finances with the school or the district, that's another thing. But I'm interested in your take on that, having it be your first conference. And I'll say this now, we had a record 65 people from Utah attend, which is about 28% of our membership, which is incredible. But I'll turn the mic over to you.
Yeah. This is one of these conferences that my dad has mentioned for years. When I decided to go in athletic administration, he's spoken to me so many times about this convention, and something that he regrettably was never able to attend himself. He had mentioned, there's a different time back then as well, as we mentioned. But it's something that he definitely encouraged me to attend. One of the first things that I know that Coach Beer had mentioned when I had taken over this position for him, I get a great opportunity to work with him on a weekly basis still here at the school district. But then one of the first things he said was, make sure you get registered with NIAAA, UIAAA, and get to that conference. I have attended the United Soccer Coaches Convention since 2019, and this is kind of a similar type of event that I knew that is something that I was excited to attend and to learn from so many others. As you mentioned, with that United Soccer Convention, I had coaches trying to convince me for years to attend. Once I went, I've been every year since, and that is the same way with the NIAAA conference. It was such a great experience. I've got pages and pages of notes and contacts from people, and so many things that I was able to learn, especially as a new AD. I felt like I was being fed through a fire hose. There's so much that I've written down. I've gone back through a little bit of them since then. Already started to implement a few of the things, but I really look forward to, over the next month or so, continuing to go through those notes and really picking out the things that are the biggest priority to me, and for our athletic department here at Tooele High School, and being able to implement those new ideas. Being able to attend the different workshops, the keynote speakers. I was able to take the 501 course while I was there to kind of work towards getting my CAA in a couple of years. It was by far one of the greatest experiences. And everyone always laughs, say, "Oh yeah, you go on a vacation, going to Florida." It wasn't a vacation. It was better than a vacation. It truly was something that I know has set the path for me to continue to learn and to grow as an athletic director, and to have that opportunity to meet with so many other athletic directors from around the country, and even internationally with some of those that I was able to talk with. And it's definitely something that I will plan to attend every year.
Let me ask you a little off the wall question about being at Tooele. I want to know if you feel any pressure. Probably not, because Tooele is the home of two former UIAAA presidents, Paul Dart and Cathan Beer. And the UIAAA is only 42, 43 years old. To have two presidents from the same school is quite impressive. It might be three or 4 years from now. Who knows? Talk about that for a minute.
Well, I one thing about me is I love leadership, and I love the opportunity to serve. It is definitely something that, as a new AD, I've got a lot on my plate to kind of to work with and to learn myself. But I do look forward to the opportunity to serve through many different opportunities, and being highly involved with the UIAAA. Have big shoes to fill. I know that both Coach Dart and Coach Beer have had a role to play within the organization, as well as so many others, including my dad, who has served on many different committees,
Right.
and done many different things over the years as well. That I definitely have a desire to serve others, and to use my knowledge and expertise that I will learn over the next couple of years, and be able to share that with many others.
Cody, what's one common myth about being an athletic director that you'd like to debunk to the public out there?
That's one of as taking over this role, I've had so many of my friends just kind of say, what is it like being an athletic director? I was actually attending a basketball game just yesterday, over Christmas break. And someone's like, "Are you here as a dad? Are you here as a fan? Are you here as the athletic director?" And the answer is yes to all three. So many times they think that the athletic director role, their job is just kind of attending the events and making sure that the refs are there, and everything goes smoothly that way. But there is so much more to being an athletic director, and I think any athletic director will know that. And I know I've only scratched the surface. I've only been in this position now for about 4 or 5 months, and I'm still learning what it takes to be an athletic director myself. But so many times, while we do get to have those fun opportunities to be involved and to attend so many of these sporting events, which I attended most of the time beforehand anyway. But I think that people don't realize all the other stuff kind of behind the scenes, that we get to do as an athletic director. and running, whether it be running the budgets, there's, people just assume in many situations that we have these large budgets and we can do all this, but the budget is very, very small, and takes a lot of time going out and trying to get sponsorships and getting deals, working with our community members to be able to help support the many great ideas that I have and that as any athletic director has for the athletic department. So while they, a lot of times the face of the athletic director that they see is attending those events, and that may seem to be fun, and while that is a perk of the job, if you will, but even at that, it's not there just to watch a football game or to watch a volleyball match or a swimming meet. You're there working the whole time and constantly being aware of what's going on in the stands. Do their officials need anything? Trying to keep an eye on the coaches, both our coaches and the opponent's coaches, and just trying to really keep an eye and make sure that everything runs smoothly, and to try to prevent any major issues from happening. So it's not all just fun and games, even though we attend all those events. We are truly working and looking at ways to continue to improve that experience for student athletes, as parents, fans, community members, and everyone involved.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. Cody, what's the favorite part of your job?
The favorite part is the opportunity to serve other people. I know that is a big thing that I've learned throughout my entire life. My parents have always really stressed the importance to me and my two brothers, the importance of serving others. And as the athletic director, I look at that as an opportunity to serve. I get to work with many great student athletes and encouraging them to give their all, to work hard, in the classroom, outside the classroom, on the field, wherever it may be in their life, and doing whatever I can to help serve those student athletes. But in addition to that, having the opportunity to serve our coaches. One of the biggest things that I gained from the NIAAA conference this year was, as an athletic director, we need to be coaching our coaches, and being able to find ways that as an athletic director, I can serve my coaches, take things off of their plate, the day-to-day routines that they have to do, and being able to help them to be able to truly become a coach, become a leader for their student athletes and those that are on their teams. I'd sent out an email to all of our coaches at the end of the fall season and said, when we meet together to kind of analyze and to evaluate the season, I'm asking them to come to me with one thing that I can do to take that off their plate to help them to be able to focus on their jobs of coaching those student athletes and helping them to become better. And that to me is something that I've always loved serving. And that is something that I feel is an important part of this position.
Thanks for sharing that. Let's finish up with a couple of questions. The first is a little different for you because I'm asking for Cody's suggestions for a brand new AD, and actually you give us a different perspective because you are a brand new AD. So if you were to give two suggestions to a fellow brand new athletic administrator and they had to follow Cody's suggestions in order to be a success, what would those two suggestions be?
The first one is definitely being able to not be afraid to ask for help. There's so much, and even as you kind of indicated, and I've also said already, that there's no way I know everything about this job at this point. I am very lucky to have Coach Beer, his phone number on speed dial, including many other great athletic directors who have reached out to me. One of the first people that reached out to me when they heard I got this position was Jamie Sheets at Park City, and he sent me a text, and I knew the name. My dad had mentioned Jamie many times over the years, so I knew the name, but he was the first person outside of Tooele School District that reached out to me and said, "Hey, welcome. Please reach out and let me know if you have any questions." And that to me is one thing, is don't be afraid to ask for help. There's so many people that are involved within this community that will do anything they can to help and support. And so that is kind of my first big thing to make sure that you're not afraid to ask for help. The second thing is to always have a positive attitude, have fun in the job. There's so many times where you get the emails from parents complaining, or you may have a coach that's going through certain issues, or there's an event that happened at the basketball game last night that you got to take care of, and it gets to be hard. It gets to be very difficult. I'm one that takes things so personal. And through all of that, you need to have a positive attitude, put a smile on your face, work through it the best you can, and try to have fun through it all. Work through those things, knowing that your job as the athletic director is to help our student athletes. Ultimately, it comes down to our student athletes. Obviously, we have our coaches in our community and so many other things, but our job is to really make sure that these student athletes have the best experience they can, which allows them to prepare themselves for life. So many of them aren't going into athletics after high school, but the things that they learn through the leadership at the school can definitely help to set them on the right path to success, regardless of what it is that they choose to do after high school.
Great suggestions. Thank you so much for sharing. The final question is this. Cody, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
You know what? I'm not really sure. Again, I don't really know enough to know on and what I don't know yet. And so I'm not sure if there's any question that I feel is something that was left out. So I appreciate the opportunity to kind of be here and to share the little bit of knowledge that I've gained over the past couple of months and over the past years as I've kind of pursued this dream of mine. And so I just thank you for that opportunity.
On that note, this ends this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Cody Valdez, the Director of Athletics at Tooele High School. Thanks so much, Cody, for being on the podcast.
Thank you for your time.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.